July 21st, 2022. Time is 9:30 a.m. Officially calling the meeting to order. Attending are Commissioners Duncan and Filios. Commissioner Bill Brooks is absent. And Ben, would you please lead us in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is not working.
Oh, hit that.
Hi, Pat.
Good morning.
So joining us is Civil Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Pat Braden. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Nope.
Hearing none. Chairman's opening remarks. I don't have anything to comment about. Okay. And potential conflicts of interest?
I
Okay.
don't know. Do you have one?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so our first business segment, Cougar Gulch mailing costs and a potential action item.
Commissioners,
Director.
things have changed a little bit since we last spoke about Cougar Gulch. The main and useful change is that the neighborhoods continued to do canvassing, and they're up to 72%, I think it is, of the total number of people out there. There's 354 parcels, so 72% of that have responded and are in favor of rezoning going forward. That, I will say, to me, is remarkably high and a good sign. But I still want you to feel comfortable, and I would like to hear from you today how we're going to go forward with cost. You'll recall that the last time we spoke, I brought up mailing costs for 51 cents a postcard. That works out in this case to be about $180 a mailing. I'd like to do at least 3 mailings because I'd like to have a neighborhood meeting first, and then a notice for the public hearing for the Plan Commission and notice for your hearing. And then those are the sort of hard costs that we need to decide on who's going to pay for that. We normally would charge $2,192 for a filing fee for a rezoning if it were a developer, for instance, doing this. This case is different. You got what arguably is a legislative action as opposed to a quasi-judicial one. You'll remember the difference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And-
it would, not maybe, it would be a legislative
Right.
hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, unambiguously. And it's about a 5+ square mile area. So you're dealing with 354 properties. So that makes it legislative. But again, it's a judgment call ultimately on your part as to whether the $2,192 can be waived. I would be fine with it given that this is such strong support. I don't believe there's going to be a lot of staff time involved. It'll mostly be my time, and mostly in the way of just ushering it through the public hearing process and a public meeting.
Okay.
And then we would normally have some hard cost of a newspaper notice for the public hearings. Those run about $100 a pop, 2 of those. And then an actual publication cost for the ordinance that Pat would work up that we'd also put in the newspaper. Those today, in something like this, roughly $160, $200 in rough numbers. So I'm just really down to what's your pleasure on how do we go forward?
Okay, so is your primary concern the filing fee?
I for one would be willing to let that one go for the same reasons that we let the tribe go for the tribe rezoning.
I see.
It's really a big public purpose.
Okay, so from the standpoint of the mailing, I don't have an issue charging the residents for the mailing.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
because this is in fact initiated by them.
yeah.
I'm
So,
sorry.
well, no, that's okay. I should let you finish.
No, go ahead.
I would say in round numbers, $1,000 for all of the mailings and everything, and then forget the rezoning fee. So that's what I would be.
Sounds good to me.
You have audience here that might like to be part of this discussion. Are you willing to hear from Mr. Meyer?
Carl, go right ahead.
I thank you for the consideration. Understand, the only comments I would have is understand how those got started. All the residents out there have looked at how this where the beginning was. If you look at, what is it, Title VIII, I believe, back in '73 when all the rezoning had gotten done, everything south of us and everything west of us and most of the remaining parts of the county that aren't under a city are 5 acres and minimum parcels. For whatever reason, we were 2 out there. Press time forward where we've been in the last 10 years, nearly every resident has come up with water problems. And if we let this go continuously with 2-acre parcels, with the amount of development that we've seen in this area, every single resident is going to have a problem with water. And we are just trying to take every step we can to circumvent that for the entire neighborhood. So when David talks about the 354 parcels that are out there, realize that some of those are undeveloped. A large majority of the larger ones are undeveloped. Some come under county control, such as a community center, so we didn't even consider that. So we believe we're more at 75%. And of the entire, our goal, my goal in particular, and the rest of the committee, steering committee agreed to this, was to try to have 100% outreach. So we did everything we could in advance to reach out to everyone and not convince them that this is the best thing to do, just to inform them what the action was. Of the complete outreach, only 4 people said they wouldn't sign. That's 4 out of 354. Right? And as I mentioned, I'm not sure that the number is accurate for 354 based on, is there an owner, is it run by, a nonprofit and you can't do anything with it because it's under conservancy. Being at 75% and the amount of community activism that has been out there, they all realize, because they've all went through it, we are running out of water. And this is a much larger problem than I think we're seeing with just the activism that we got it, because I believe there's going to be future steps. Like, how are we going to help further, assure a water delivery? Because I think the biggest problem we're going to have is that if water continues to be a problem, it's going to be a much larger cost to the community overall. And these are just small steps in trying to prevent that larger problem in the future. And had we all had a crystal ball, I don't think that would have gone to 2 acres originally anyways. It would have been 5. And it was therefore our request to have the county pay for everything we can to get it back to what it should be. And yet we're asking the commissioners to hopefully understand that this is not something that we desire because we want people out. I have no problem with someone selling a property, turning it over, making a legacy. That is great. But the future of the residents that are going to be there are under call it a diminishing return, to where they're not sure that they're going to even have a home to homestead anymore.
Okay, so not to cut you off, but David, when did the 2-acre minimum come about?
1973, Title VIII.
Thereabouts?
The real
Okay.
answer to your question is, when was this area zoned?
Okay,
And my assumption is it was 73.
right, early 70s.
It was in the early 2000s that it was actually changed from 8,270 square feet to 2 acres.
So it was actually higher.
You're saying it was restricted residential?
It was the same density. I mean, it's the
No,
same minimum lot size as restricted residential, the ag subzone in general. And then the minimum lot size was increased to 2 acres.
Yeah, the ag subzone is one of the few in our code that's actually changed over time.
Right. So I would just say regarding the money, I mean, if the county's going to subsidize $21.92, which is the rezoning fee, which is fine, you've said that it's going to be minimal staff time. I want buy-in from the residents, and I think $1,000 over 354 acres is not, or parcels or owners, is not unreasonable. It gives buy-in, and the people in Athol, the people in Harrison aren't subsidizing what Cougar Gulch wants to do. So that's kind of the way I look at it. You know, if I was doing something in my neighborhood, I wouldn't ask Cougar Gulch or East Lake or, you know, Wolf Lodge to pay for it. So I think that's very fair and reasonable. And at the very first meeting that David holds, you can have a bucket, hey, donations. What we found with my theater group is, my child's theater group, when we charged everybody $1 to go to this one event to cover the event rental, we got 100 people, $100. When we said donations, we got double that. So instead of saying, okay, if all 354 people can put in $3, you know, we just said, hey, donations, and it more than covered our stuff. So
Yeah, and I would tend to agree. I think, you know, what the county might have done back in 1973, we're going back to a period of time where growth was minimal. I don't think anybody could have forecasted the level of growth that we've been experiencing, much less the accelerant that COVID has proven to be. So to ask the residents over 350 plus parcels to come up with $1,000 is not unreasonable. And really, I don't, and especially since it's going largely for the mailing, a little bit of your time. And what we should also note is only recently have you completed a study that showed that for years we were basically undercharging for fees, and some of them we've actually had to quintuple. That's how far behind the market and other jurisdictions we've been. It's reasonable. It's important to the residents. We want to move this forward, and I don't even see this as a matter of principle. If this were a situation that had arisen very recently and could be demonstrated to show that the county had been at fault, I think I might take a different view of it. But going from what was restricted residential, which incidentally is 5 units per acre, to a 2-acre minimum was a step up. So now we're going to 5. I'm fine with $1,000.
And
I
it's
truly
also,
am. I think it's a reasonable.
it's also over 3 meetings, so it's not like they'd have to shell it all out at once either.
sure.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at for meetings? You're looking at,
A neighborhood meeting, either there or here,
and then
and
two
then two public hearings.
public hearings.
Both here.
28-day notice on each public hearing?
Yes, sir.
And a public hearing. So we're basically looking out a few months.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you need a motion, Pat?
To waive the
Zone
fee,
fee.
the
Okay.
filing fee, there would need to be a motion.
Okay. Then I move for the Cougar Gulch zone change and mailing costs that the county waive the 2192 rezone file fee and only charge hard costs an approximate amount of $1,000 for the mailings.
Second.
Bill Brooks is excused. Commissioner Duncan?
Aye.
Chairman Philios?
Aye. And so the motion passes.
And just, Commissioners, just real quick, that minimum parcel size changed on February 8th, 2005, and it's been 2 acres since then.
Okay.
Thank you.
So for the last 16 years. How did it ever go? Never mind.
Well, it was I think the 8,250 square feet was the original parcel size as of January 3rd, 1973.
In that,
In the
Ag sub.
ag subzone, right.
so it had the same parcel size as now's restricted residential.
Yeah, there were just different uses allowed or not allowed.
For the benefit of Carl and our other guests, restricted residential currently is found mostly typically around waterfront, which is 5 units per acre. Whether that's right is a whole nother matter, but anyway, it was what it was. It went up to a 2-acre minimum in 2003, so now we're potentially moving toward a 5-acre minimum. So I think we're good.
Good.
Okay?
And then I'd ask David to just
Go ahead.
contact me to figure out how we can achieve payments towards the outlay of whatever comes up.
So I'm not sure how to pay it directly unless you're asking us to pay each step along the way or give the county 1,000 approximately.
Well, as
So we need
Pat
to
said,
have that.
we can work that out.
Commissioners, would you be fine with us just billing, sending them an invoice,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we'll get it when we get it?
yeah, whatever works.
We'll send you
is
an
fine.
invoice. You've got something, I mean, we're talking at least 90 days to get through the process.
The process,
So
right?
that gives you at least 3 months to collect the money.
So what that says is that as of today, you're gonna move forward
Yes.
with this process and then.
That is
we'll-
correct.
And that's fine. I think
That
that'll
is
be
correct.
great. We'll be able to, come up with the funds to make it
And
happen.
the process will commence with a public meeting, and the 2 public hearings will follow,
Right.
okay?
And I would suggest that public meeting happen down at the Cougar Gulch Community Center. I think that would be the best
Yeah.
place, and then,
We
And the
should
2
probably-
hearings
Yeah, we
here.
should probably YouTube that one too.
That's fine, sure.
Yeah, we didn't in the past, but, okay, good.
okay?
All set?
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, everyone. Okay, second item. Gazer Spa Boutique. Gazer Spa and Boutique Medical Treatment Building, general discussion.
Commissioners, this one I wanted you to be aware of because it's a flagrant, in-your-face violation of the building and the land use code. And to me, it's particularly galling because the consultant staff dealing with the PUD you just dealt with and the Gazer organization should have known that they were violating both the building code and the PUD requirements by not asking for an amendment to the PUD and the proper filing of building permits for this, now we've learned, commercial spa and EMT building. I don't know, Craig just visited with the staff. Craig, did you find out if they stopped using the building?
I did. There's representation right now, meeting with our chief building official, and they've confirmed that they have stopped operations for the commercial activity at that time, and they're determining what requirements will be of them for a change of use permit for a commercial entity, whether it's temporary or permanent basis. So as of right now, they have halted operations, and they've verbally given me approval to go up and confirm that.
Oh, good.
Okay,
I asked for that. Even though we have permits open, we have right of entry, I always ask as a
sure.
consolation to reach out. So I can go up and I will do that today.
So my question is, the day that they could have gotten approved from their PUD amendment, had they started work before that day or after that day?
Before. They've been using buildings out there for a spa and for an EMT, as far as I know, for some time. And in both cases, they're violation of the building code and the PUD. And so that's why I was ready to go for an injunction. This was going to be just an informational
Sure.
item. Now that I know they've backed off, if we can confirm they've backed off, I'm not going to waste Pat's time. But it's just really galling because it's a health safety issue. You know, you may not know. Not only are there ADA requirements for these facilities that go way beyond just the parking lot. In this case, there's railing, and internally there's bathrooms and so on and so forth.
Door widths and everything.
Exactly. And even window openings. But a commercial building has to be sprinklered, and this is not. And so there's all sorts of ramifications to this. So I'm grateful to hear that they've at least agreed to stop, but I just wanted you to be aware of it because it really, to me, it has unnecessarily angered the neighborhood and given an impression we can now not undo, which is that Gazer gets away with things that no one else should.
Well, doesn't sound like they're getting away with it because now their amendment's held up and they have to jump through these hoops.
I agree. I'm just telling you what the
But
neighbors would think.
what was the specific act that, specific act that triggered this?
How did we learn? Is that your question?
Yeah.
We had a complaint from a neighbor.
And I think one of
Go
our
ahead,
building
Craig.
inspectors too was, so they filed an application for a building permit for a residence.
Right, I forgot about that part.
And what they did is they essentially were taking the structure off of its foundation and moving it to a different lot, and that was how it was permitted as a dwelling. Well, through our inspection procedure as well, our building inspector said this is not a dwelling. and they're using it for a spa, they've got a sign out in the front that says this is a spa. This is certainly not consistent with what they've requested in their building permit. So that also is how we became aware of it.
Thank you, I forgot about that piece.
And in 13 years in 4 jurisdictions, I've never seen a single-family residence with 8 angled parking spaces in front of it.
You think?
All right.
Okay.
So there's going to be a path forward, though, if they go and
Yes.
do all of the things they need to do
Yes,
to make this.
I'm glad you brought that up. The other piece of this is we've agreed that we'll do what we call a minor amendment to the PUD, which doesn't come to you,
Right.
but at least recognizes everything we just talked about. So it's of record and then in the electronic files.
Yeah. Well, I mean, still regarding, to me, there's still 2 separate issues. I still want them to give up their development rights for those properties to get them into the PUD. So, because if they're still doing this, I don't want them to have 120 more opportunities
Yeah,
to do that. So, yeah, all right, well, just let us know when we can handle the signing and, after they,
Yeah, I think it's in everybody's best interest to get those CVs remedied because they want, like you're saying, they want that approval,
yeah.
as much as, and, we want to see that approval for the purposes you articulated. And
Yeah.
so, I think they certainly have an incentive to get this fixed.
Yeah. So,
So that's it in a nutshell. Thanks for letting me kvetch.
sure.
Yeah, okay. Very appropriate. Okay. Well, no, we don't have public comment. We already entertained it.
Yep.
Jonathan? How many? 4. Anyway, okay, so the time is now 9:52. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.